Evening, everybody. My name is Jeff Gothelf. Daniela was kind enough to invite me to the Madrid Scrum user group, and I'm super psyched to be here. So thank you for that. Um, I live in Barcelona these days, and my Spanish is getting better, but it's not good enough yet to present this kind of stuff at any kind of reasonable pace. So we're going to do it in English, and my hope is maybe next year my Spanish will be good enough to where we can do this in Spanish. The good news for me during quarantine is I've been, yeah, no, I'm practicing. Believe me. The good news is that the quarantine has actually helped me a lot because usually I travel, and so it's hard for me to take Spanish lessons consistently. But with the quarantine, I've been able to take Spanish lessons almost every day that I've been home, which has been great. So I'm making improvements. Listen, we have an hour together, and so I wanna do a little presentation called it's about Forever Employable, which is the new book that I've written. And in fact, I just got a test copy of the book just the other day, so it actually exists. This is the book itself. Um, and it's interesting, when I wrote this book, it was not intended, no, I was really worried about how to talk about this to the communities of people like yourselves, people who I've been talking to for a long time about product development, design thinking, agile, business agility, agile in UX, lean UX, all of those types of things. And what I realized as I wrote this is that this is highly relevant on a variety of different levels, not only as professionals, we should think of our careers all the time, but a lot of the ideas that I have in here are um, designed based on product thinking, agile thinking, and you'll see that as I go through this talk. And so let me tell you a story about this, and we'll see how it goes. Look, I started this journey on when I turned 35, and when I turned 35, um, things have been going pretty well for me. I was married, still married today. You know, same person, two daughters. They're a lot bigger now than they were when I was 35, and I had a job. Everything was good. And on the morning of my 35th birthday, I woke up in a panic. I woke up scared on the morning of my 35th birthday. Um, Up until that point, I had a good run. I had a pretty decent career path up until that point. I was, about 10 years into my career. I'd started off as a broke musician. I was a piano player for a while, and I was playing in bands. And when I got tired of being broke, not having any money, and I wanted to eat, that was exciting. The internet came around, and the internet was great because in the late 90s, if you wanted to get a job that paid real money, all you had to do was spell HTML. And in 1999, I certainly could do a little bit more than spell it. I could actually mark it up. And so I got a job in 1999 at a company called IXL in the United States doing HTML markup and graphic design. Shortly thereafter, I read this book called Information Architecture for the World Wide Web, and that changed my career trajectory. I decided I wanted to become an information architect, a UX designer, ultimately a product manager. And as I started heading down this particular career path, the dot-com bubble burst. And all of a sudden, it was kind of like today. There's no work, there's no jobs, stock market tanked, everything was awful. And so I bounced around for a few years. I worked at America Online. I got a job there. I did a little bit of design leadership work at a company called Web Trends. And after a few years, I ended up back in New York at a company called The Ladders right around my 35th birthday. Now, I was the director of user experience at The Ladders at that point. And what I had done was I'd clawed my way up to the middle. I'd climbed my way up to middle management at that point. And things were going pretty well. I had had a pretty good run. And so I'm 35 at this point. I wake up on the morning of my 35th birthday and I'm scared. And this is why I'm scared, because I realize that in 5 years, I'm going to be 40. I'm going to be old, which is funny looking at it from this side of 40, from that side of 40. 40 was old. From this side of 40, 40 is not old. But nevertheless, I would see myself, I would be old, I would be expensive, and I would be hard to employ because there were all of these young designers coming into the market. They were younger than me, faster than me, better than me. And most importantly, they were cheaper than me. And I was afraid they were going to take my job and I wasn't going to be able to continue to, make a living at the kind of salary that I was used to with my family and everything. I had, and so on the morning of my 35th birthday, I made a resolution. And that resolution was this: I was no longer going to look for jobs. I wasn't going to keep chasing work, getting my CV updated, applying for jobs, doing interviews. Instead, jobs were going to look for me. That's it. That's what I was planning on doing. And so I realized that that's pretty mind-blowing. Like, oh my God, Jeff, jobs are going to look for you. That's terrific. You're blowing me away, right? But the reality is that there are a lot of questions to answer here. And for me, there were 4 key questions that I needed to answer. The first question was this: does anyone know who I am? Now, the year is 2008, right? So nobody knows who I am, right? So why would they even come looking for me, right? Why? I mean, how would they know to even look for me? And then why would they come looking for me, right? What problem would I help them solve? How would they find me, right? How would people look for me and how would they find me? And then ultimately, right, what kind of work do I want? So if jobs are going to find me, if I'm not going to find jobs, but jobs are going to find me, what kind of work do I want? And so I got to thinking a lot about these questions. And as I go through this presentation, I'm going to ask you some questions as well. Some of these I'm going to ask you to answer in the chat. One of them is going to be a poll. So as I was thinking about these questions, I thought maybe I would ask you one of these questions as well. So here's a question for you really quickly before I move on in my story. Can you answer this in the chat for me? Why would anyone look for you? In other words, what problem do you solve for people? Can you just drop something in the chat? Right? If someone was to come looking for you and say, listen, I need your help, what do you help with? Why would people come looking for you? Or why do people come looking for you? Can you type some answers in the chat? Let's look at some of those answers. That's not the chat. That's the Q&A module, right? The chat is over here. So type here. Yeah, there we go. So deliver value is very, very ambiguous, right? What kind of value do you deliver, right? Yeah, I'm an experienced project manager and an agile service delivery, right? Like, what problem do you solve for people? Why would anyone come looking for you? Right? I help companies build the right products for their customers. There you go. I help them sell online, define their digital strategy. Okay. Again, experience is great. Experience in what? Knowledge is great. Knowledge in what? I help them find people who know to do what they don't know. Exactly. I help them fill that gap. I can manage projects, make companies earn money. That's compelling, right? Help me find that, right? These are the kinds of things that I was trying to ask myself, right? Good at motivating people. Exactly. I can manage teams. I was thinking about this for myself as well. Why would anyone come looking for me as well? And what I did was, thank you for that, is I spent the next 10 years answering this question and building a platform to drive answers to that question. What I learned was that there are at least 5 qualities that I believe you need to become forever employable, to put yourself in a situation where jobs find you instead of you looking for jobs. And so there are at least 5 qualities. And I took 5 distinct steps to becoming forever employable, to building this platform. And as you put these ideas together, what I realized was this, is that you have to treat your career and your professional development in the same way as you would treat a product or a project or an initiative or a company. The same kind of principles that we use to deliver successful products and services, that's how you have to think about your career and your professional development. Now, there are 5 qualities that I believe that you need to have to become forever employable, right? And these are those 5 qualities. First is entrepreneurialism. The second is self-confidence. The third is continuous learning. The fourth is continuous improvement. And the fifth is reinvention. And if this looks familiar to you, it should, because this is agile. This is agility. These are the qualities of Scrum, right? Is the idea that we're always reinventing, we're trying, we're inspecting, we're adapting, we're learning, and we're improving. And as I set out to build a platform that allowed jobs to find me, I was exercising these skills. Now, what was interesting is I didn't actually realize I had all these skills. In fact, some of them, I didn't think I had at all. For example, entrepreneurialism. I never thought of myself as an entrepreneur. I never saw myself as somebody who would start a company or would start a business. But it turns out that I had done that throughout my career. I'd been in bands. Bands are startups. Bands are entrepreneurial ventures. And so I drew a lot on that experience. One of the things that you have to do in order to start building a platform around yourself is to have self-confidence. Self-confidence for me came from doing things that made me uncomfortable when I was younger. One of the things that I had done when I was younger was I joined the circus. I was graduating from university. This is a true story. And I didn't know what I was going to do next. And I had an opportunity to join the circus. And I did it. And I spent 6 months on the road traveling with a circus in the United States. And it was a tough 6 months. I didn't have an easy time, but I learned how to survive. And I learned that these uncomfortable situations teach you lots of things, including self-confidence, even if you fail a bunch of times. And so I get to draw on that. I build continuous learning into everything that I do, right? So whether it's about reading or whether it's books or articles or watching talks or going to conferences, engaging with a community, anything that I could do to help make myself smarter and better. And those learnings continuously improve how I work and how I deliver my work. These are the qualities that I've been building up over the last 10 plus years, right? One of the things that I do regularly is teach workshops. And the way that I get better is I teach with a partner. I teach, in this particular photo, I teach with Jeff Patton. I learn a lot from Jeff. Hopefully he learns something from me, and I'm always getting better. And then finally, one of the things that I'm always doing as well is reinventing myself. It's interesting, right? Because you think about it, I started as a UX designer, became a product manager, I became a design team leader, a product manager, a product team leader, and then a consultant and a coach and a speaker. And these days, I'm taking the same ideas that I've been teaching about agility and product thinking and design thinking, and I'm applying them to new non-product teams like HR and legal and finance and that type of thing. And so at the very least, these are the 5 qualities that I've found. And each one of us has these in different degrees and in different strengths. And they've helped me start to build this reality where jobs find me. And I'm curious about you folks. I'd love to I have a quick little poll here that I'd love, that I'm launching. If you can see the poll, right? If you're thinking about these qualities, right, what is your strongest forever employable quality? We've got 69 people on this call, right? What's your strongest quality? Can you fill out the poll? I'm watching the numbers come in real time. It's very, very interesting to watch. And I guess with a Scrum group, I'm really not surprised by the results in this group at all. Where are we? 50, 54, 58, 59. Only one. Yeah. Crazy. All right. So 60 of 68 people have voted. If you haven't voted, now is your chance. But I got to tell you, it's pretty amazing, right? Here are the results of our poll. Check it out, right? I think you can see. I think you can see the poll results at this point. I hope. Can you? I assume you can see it. 70% of you said continuous learning, right? And for an Agile group, that makes total sense. But wow, self-confidence. Only 4 people said self-confidence. That's really interesting, right? And one of the things to think about is, what have you done in the past that has made you uncomfortable, and what have you learned from it, right? But this is a really, really interesting thing. And look, those are the qualities, right, that we've done together. And the steps that I took to get there are like this. And by the way, I forgot to mention, if you've got questions, yeah, super interesting results, right? If you've got questions for me, please put them in the Q&A module, right? So we've got the chat for chat, and then we've got the Q&A module for questions. If you've got any questions for me, feel free to put them in there and I'll answer them after the fact. But here are the 5 steps that I took to becoming forever employable and to really building this platform and making jobs find me and treating my career as a product, right? So first and foremost, I picked a direction. I planted a flag, which is really key, right? To say, when you plant a flag, you're saying, this domain, this area, that's where I am going to establish myself as an expert with my experience. And there are people who do this very well, and I guarantee that you guys know what it is. So I'm going to show you the name of a person. I want you to type in the chat what they're known for, okay? Where they planted their flag, okay? I bet you know all these answers. So Eric Ries, where did Eric Ries plant his flag? Go ahead and type it in the chat. Yes, Lean Startup, obviously, right? That's a good one. All right, next one on the quiz. Jake Knapp. Where did Jake Knapp plant his flag? Excellent. Design sprint. Exactly. Jake Knapp planted his flag in the design sprint, right? And then the last one I have for you is this dude, Osterwalder, Alex Osterwalder. Where did he plant his flag? Yes, exactly. Business model generation, business model canvas, right? These folks are really, really good at this, right? They planted their flag and they said, this is where the area that I own, right? And same was for me. For me, it was bringing Agile and UX together as Lean UX, solving that problem. And that's the first thing you have to do. You have to decide where you're going to be an expert and how, and start to kind of present yourself in that domain. Now, the second step that I took was telling my story. Telling my story is the key to as many people as you can in any situation that you can. I started telling my story 2.5 years after my 35th birthday, when I decided that Agile and UX was where I was going to plant my flag. I was solving that problem for myself, but I realized that lots of other people have that problem as well. And so I gave my first talk at the Agile conference. I don't remember where it was, somewhere in the United States, on August 12th, 2010. A month later, I gave the first Lean UX talk in Paris. First time I've ever spoken about Lean UX. That was 10 years ago. And then the big break came in March of 2011, right? This is 3 years now, 3 years after my 35th birthday. I published the first sort of international article about Lean UX in Smashing Magazine. Smashing Magazine had 1 million readers in 2011. And so the conversation goes global, and I've been telling my story so much, now I get to tell it everywhere. I get to tell it from the stage, from the stage, and then really anywhere anyone would listen, I'm telling the story. I'm tweeting about it. I'm blogging on Medium. I'm writing about it on LinkedIn. I'm answering questions on Quora. I'm even posting some stuff on Facebook. The only place we stopped short, we didn't do Lean UX the musical. We thought about doing Lean UX the musical, but decided that was a bit extreme. And so we stopped doing that. And as I'm telling my story, I'm getting better at it. And I started to ask myself, Why? Why is my story resonating? And my story's resonating because I was solving a real problem that many people had. Remember, I asked you, why would anyone come looking for you, right? And I said, what problem do you help them solve? And you said, I motivate teams, or I fill gaps, right? For me, I was solving Agile and UX, and I was solving it with real world experience. And the stories that I was sharing were humble. It wasn't just all, hey, we did it and we're awesome and it works every time. You know, we talked about all the stuff that didn't work and how bad it was and how many mistakes we made. And that really connected with the people who were listening and trying to fix this. Everything we ever published provided practical, tactical advice. So anything you read from me, and even this presentation, you'll notice, has practical, tactical advice you can take away. And that helps build that authentic connection, all right? Step 3 is following the new path. Here's a super interesting thing, okay? Now I'm speaking, I'm writing, I'm blogging, I'm teaching workshops, I'm doing less design work. Now remember, on my 35th birthday, I wake up and I'm terrified that better designers are coming into the market and they're going to take my job. And now I'm doing even less design work, right? That's a problem for me. And so I'm really worried about this. But as I'm traveling around the world, I'm flying around, I'm doing talks, I'm teaching workshops, right? New paths emerge, new opportunities emerge. As it turns out, book publishers go to conferences and then they look for people who are speaking about the latest topics and they offer them book deals. I was speaking about lean UX, a very popular topic back in 2012, 2011, 2012. And so I signed a book deal with O'Reilly to write the lean UX book. Except there was one big secret I didn't tell O'Reilly. And it was this: I didn't know how to write a book. I was very bad at it. You know, but again, I was leaning on my experience as a musician, my entrepreneurial experience, and the self-confidence that I gained by doing things like joining the circus. And I said, okay, I'll give it a shot and I'll figure out how to write this book, right? So let's do a little interactive question again before I continue in the story. Let's break this up a little bit. Question for you, right? What was the last thing, and please type an answer in the chat, okay? What was the last thing someone asked you to do that you didn't know how to do, right? So someone asked me to write a book. I said, sure. I didn't know how to do it, right? But I figured it out. What was the last thing someone asked you to do that you didn't know how to do? And how did you do it? Can you answer in the chat? I'd love to see some interesting stuff in here. Could be anything, work-related, not work-related, right? Be a technical lead for a software development team, yeah? To help a company start adopting agile methodologies. We're all trying to figure that one out. Good luck. Hire people. Hiring is hard, right? No one really trains us about that. And building a team is hard, right? I had to repair a radiator. Got to figure it out. Amazing, right? 5 minutes ago, someone asked Federico, Federico, hey, Federico, what's up, man? Nice to see you. How to do querying Kibana to get user data. My guess is you're going to figure it out, right? Yeah, going from project manager to product owner, right? Like these are big shifts, right? Moving from one job to another, right? And people ask us to do this all the time. Now you can take that as a roadblock, right? You can take that as an obstacle, or you can see it as an opportunity, right? And this is when people look back at stuff, wordly mapping, yeah, I hear you about that. You can see that as again, a roadblock, or you can see it as an opportunity. And when you see people who have been lucky, played piano with a singer on a stage, and you only started playing 3 months ago, that's terrifying. Well done if you did that. I hear you. But look, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. So as you continue to work, whether you're taking piano lessons or you're learning about PM or you're learning about Agile, these opportunities show up, these new paths, and that's when you feel lucky and you're ready to take them. The book came up, I was ready to take it. I was terrible at it for a while, right? It took me 2 years, 3 editors, and 4 manuscripts. I wrote the manuscript 4 times to finish Lean UX, right? It was brutal and it was awful, and I wasn't sure they were going to let me even publish the book. But 5 years after my 35th birthday, when I was 40 years old, I published Lean UX, my first book, right? And that took the conversation, that changed my life, right? Because I'd been talking about the book for 2 years. People were very excited to get it. It had an answer to the Agile and UX problem. And that moved me to the next phase in my career, which for me was teaching. Recently, I met the Gibson Biddle, the former VP of product for Netflix. And he asked me, he and I are doing similar work these days. And he asked me what I like best about my job these days. And I said, teaching. And I said, I never expected to become a teacher, but it turns out that everything that I do is teaching, right? No matter what I'm doing, is whether it's workshops or conferences or webinars, podcasts, writing guest articles or doing interviews, it's teaching the material. It's teaching product thinking. It's teaching agility. It's teaching Lean UX, customer centricity and product discovery, and getting good at telling those stories and getting better at understanding how to teach this. And really, one of the best examples, let's just dive into one of these, is workshops. I spent a lot of time teaching workshops. In fact, I taught 2 today over Zoom like this. And, you know, I do that because it exercises my ideas, and I get a chance of how to understand how to better teach the ideas. It improves my storytelling. It makes some money. And most importantly, it generates leads for other business, right? So people come in and they say, can you teach this in-house? And it starts to open up those new paths and those new opportunities that you can then go and build from, which is pretty amazing. And so that's why teaching has become a core part of what I do. And as you kind of plant your flag and you say, look, I'm going to be an expert in radiator repair or design thinking or Scrum Master or whatever it is, right? Teaching is a great way to get better at your job. Now, the last step that I took to get there was, and this was the most difficult step for me to understand, to really understand and get around to, was giving it all away. The more I give away for free, the more eventually it comes back and helps those jobs find me, right? The goal is to get the jobs to find me instead of me actively looking for other work. And part of the way that I do that is I make myself and my work easily findable and accessible, right? Everything is under my website. Everything is there. My talks, my articles, videos, podcasts, events, you name it, right? It's all there, and the majority of it is free, right? So if you Google my name, you're going to find me. If you Google Lean UX, you're going to find me, right? And that's exactly the point, is the more I give away. Look, there's videos of my keynotes on my website. You can pull that up on a screen in a conference room, bring the team into the conference room, and you can watch the keynote. But people still hire me to give those talks, even though they're available for free online and on my website. Building community locally, doing meetups like this is fantastic for giving away material, making people smarter, investing in the community, and ultimately getting better at delivering that material as well. Now look, as I wrap this up, a few things to remember here. One is, once you plant your flag, if you want to stay relevant in that industry, you need to stay active. You need to participate in conversations. You need to publish videos or articles or tweets or LinkedIn posts or whatever. You need to participate in discussions. You need to respond, right? So staying active is key. If you're trying to move from one thing to the next, I saw a few of you talk about moving from PM to Scrum Master or from project management to product ownership. Give yourself some time. I find that if you're going to start to become an expert in one thing to the next, it's taken me a couple of years, about 2 years, right, in advance to start to build credibility in the new topic. For example, one of the conversations I'm very interested in having is how to bring agile and agility to human resources. I don't really have a whole lot of human resources credibility or credentials, but I want to talk there. And so I've been writing about it, and I've been interviewing people there and publishing some of those ideas. And that most recent article in Harvard Business Review was all about that, right? And there's a lot to be done there in that space, right, Maria? She's saying she's trying to get there too. There's a lot to be done in that space. I've been working on that for 18 months, right? A year and a half I've been working on that to get there. Now look, what I've shared with you here today is my path. It's been my path to get here. There are lots of other options. This is what's worked for me. But I do like this. This is something to think about. I always like a good Bezos quote. You know, Bezos talks about what's going to be true over the long term, right? How do we add value in the long term? People always ask Jeff Bezos, what's going to change in 5 years? And he says, I don't worry about that. He goes, I think about what's not going to change in the next 5 to 10 years. Where will I be able to deliver value for the next 5, 10, or 20 years? And I think that if you ask yourself that based on where your expertise and your experience is, right, then you can continuously reinvent yourself and continuously improve so that you stay forever employable. And so with that, I'm going to say thank you, first of all. The book is almost out. If you go to foreveremployable.com, you can get all the information there. You can pre-order it on Kindle at this point. It'll be out within a month, roughly. I want to point out this, and I'll close with this question here. And I'd love to hear some of your responses. And of course, if you've got any questions for me, I'd love to hear that as well. But this is not a path that is only for consultants or freelancers, right? This is a path for in-house employees as well. And so I'm wondering if as you think about this, right, how can this be valuable for everyone, including in-house employees as well, right? How do you see this benefiting in-house employees? Any thoughts about that you want to add in the chat? And as you're thinking about that, if you have any specific questions for me about this or anything else, please put it in the Q&A module now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I look forward to answering any questions that you might have at this point, okay? This question here basically is, how do you make these paths, how do you make these ideas valuable for in-house employees as well? Or are they, maybe it's a simple, yeah, exactly like what Epifania is saying, right? Personal brand of employees is a benefit as well to the companies. That's exactly right. That's exactly the kind of stuff I was thinking about as well, right? It's you know, if you've got somebody who is well known in a community, that attracts other smart people to the company, right? And so there's a reciprocal process here as well. I think that that's a really good one. Yeah, right? Mastery is a great internal motivator. Exactly, that's fantastic. I'm going to drop out of presentation mode and come back here to Zoom. And I see that you all are putting in some questions over here, which is great. So thank you for that. All right. Yeah, exactly. Growing inside the company is absolutely critical to all of this. Cool. So I got a couple of questions over here. I'm going to start answering them. We've got another 20, 23 minutes or so as well. So if you've got any other questions, just let me know as well, right? And Maria, I'm going to come back to this as well. You said, well, actually, you know, before I answer the questions, I kind of take this. Yeah, exactly. Being ambassadors for companies. Maria, you say, I think this is where the HR policies should come to work to foster, right? To foster this kind of expertise. Exactly. Right. To encourage people to do this. I've seen companies where this works really well. If you think about, there are jobs, for example, Microsoft for years has had these developer evangelist roles, right? These are people whose job it is to go out and be a part of the community and evangelize for Microsoft tools, but they are experts. They give talks, right? And they can foster that. I think there's a real opportunity there as well, which is great. Okay, let me answer a couple of these questions. And if you've got more questions, please put them in the Q&A module at this point. Okay, so I'm gonna answer this one here. What advice do you give to people to overcome the imposter syndrome when it comes to becoming forever employable? Great question. I don't think it ever goes away. There are regular moments, I think almost every day for me, where I ask myself, why would anyone read this thing that I'm writing? Why would anyone watch this talk? Why would anyone care about it? I think the best way to get over imposter syndrome is to continue to put things out there, right? Not everything is going to resonate. Not everything is going to get a response. But as that stuff starts to resonate, you can build on top of it. It also is helping you experiment and test your way to the next idea that you should be talking about, right? So you make a hypothesis that you're going to plant your flag on how to transition from project management to product management, right? For example, okay, great. And you start writing about it and you start telling a story, and you realize that people don't really care about one aspect of it, but they do care about a second aspect of it, right? And that starts to resonate. I think that as you start to get feedback, that starts to play down the imposter syndrome. That's one aspect of it, but I don't think it ever fully goes away. But I don't think you should let it stop you. The other thing that I would say might help you is this. One of the toughest parts of doing this, what I've talked about in this talk, is figuring out what you are going to be an expert in, like where you're going to plant your flag, right? Because it feels like everything has already been said. Everything has already been written. And so what am I going to write about? And it's interesting. I went looking for the first blog post I ever wrote. And I think I found it. It was written 17 years ago in 2003. And it was a comparison between using HTML for wireframes and Visio for wireframes and comparing the two. It shows you how old it is. In 2003, it felt like everything had already been written about creating wireframes. And yet I wrote about my experience with these two tools. And that's the secret. I think that's the secret ultimately to getting past the imposter syndrome is that you're not an imposter because you have a unique story. You are the only one who has taken your specific set of steps to get where you are today. I don't have your story. Nobody on this call has your story. So it's a real opportunity for you to tell that story as your unique value proposition. Here are the steps that I took to become a product manager from a project manager, right? A lot of people will resonate with that path, but nobody will have taken that exact same path as you. No one will have had the same missteps and missteps. And so that really is your unique value proposition. And I think that really helps with the imposter syndrome a lot as well. Okay. Okay, next question. What about your teammates? I find it very interesting, useful to keep in touch. If you're a hard worker and people remember you to be good at your job, they'll recommend you. Absolutely. And I think this is where giving it all away, giving back is the key. You know, at the end of the talk, I asked you a question. I said, how might this be valuable for in-house employees? And one of the ways that this is valuable is giving it away internally, right? So if you're an expert at something, if you know something about something that you're particularly good at, the more that you can share that with your colleagues, the more they appreciate you. So you do you do a lunchtime lesson about a topic that you're an expert in. You build an after work meetup, an internal meetup for a specific tool that you know how to do better than anybody else, right? That starts to share that with your organization. That builds goodwill, and they always remember you as the person who not only worked hard and did a good job, but always gave back, always took the extra step, always, you know, helped us get better, or helped amplify us in the marketplace, helped the team, you know, get their ideas out there, etc. And so I think that that's extremely valuable. And the more that you can elevate your team and give them credit, the more they will give you credit. You know, it's one of the interesting things about being associated. So my flag, certainly my first flag, was Lean UX, right? I did not create Lean UX by myself, not in the least. I created it in a collaboration with my team at the Ladders. So we created it together. And it wasn't just those people. It was people outside of that who were also struggling with the same challenges that I would meet with on a regular basis and share our learnings. And so every time we talk about this, you know, we talk about we did this and we did that and we wrote this and we wrote that. That comes from sharing the credit. The more you can do that, the more your team will lift you as well, and more of that good stuff will come back to you as well. So absolutely, very important. Any other questions at all? We've got a few more minutes. We've got about 10 or 15 more minutes. There we go. Excellent. Melissa asked a good question. You start thinking about writing a book once you've told your story several times until someone pays attention. Is it always dream big, start small? Yes. And I'll tell you why. So first of all, here's the thing. I never thought about writing a book, ever. Not once in my life. To me, it seemed like Mount Everest. Like, I'm never going to climb a mountain, and I'm certainly not going to climb that mountain over there. And so, but yes, right. This is the same thing. Right? Think about a product development process, right? So you've got to build a new social network, right? Let's assume that, right? Or hey, you've got to build a new video conferencing tool, right? You're going to take on Zoom and Meet and Skype and Blue Jeans and MS Teams, whatever, right? Cool. Are you just going to go out and build the whole thing and hope that it works and that people love it? No, I mean, a lot of companies do, but you shouldn't, right? That's not what you should do, right? You're going to take small steps. You're going to understand the market. You're going to understand the competition. What are other people doing? What's working well? What's not working well, right? That type of thing. And so you're going to run experiments. The same thing holds true for this sort of content expert, this recognized expert personal branding exercise, right? You're going to say, look, I'm going to be the expert in product management, transitioning from project to product management. Terrific. Are you going to write a book about that immediately? I wouldn't. I would write tweets about it and add some hashtags and see what resonates. I would write 500 words and publish it on my blog. I would write 700 words and publish it on Medium. Maybe I would record a 3-minute video and put it up on LinkedIn and see where it's resonating. Where are people reacting? What are they saying? Are they saying, wow, that's awesome? Are they saying, you're full of crap, right? I don't believe you, right? So that is something that is absolutely critical to experimenting and learning, right? Inspecting and adapting, continuously learning, continuously improving this idea and moving it forward, right? So start small, build on evidence, and then eventually get to that point where you've got enough evidence that says, I've got an audience, I've got a topic, I've got the expertise, and a book is the right next level of investment, because it's a significant investment, right, of your time and your effort. And there's a lot of books out there, so marketing as well, right? Make sure that it's worth it. So yes, dream big, start small, experiment, collect evidence, use that evidence to justify further investment, okay? Excellent, good questions. Before I answer the next questions here, I just wanted to remind, I forgot to say this, if you want the slides, go here, and I forgot to mention this, and so I apologize. I'm just gonna put the URL here in the chat. It's just jeffgothelf.com/slides. If you want the slides, you can go ahead there. Okay, Yvonne says, what questions should we do to a job interviewer? So if we're being interviewed or if we're interviewing someone, I think that if you're, so I'll answer it both ways. I think that if you are being if you are interviewing for a job, I think that you should ask the company what opportunities or how welcome it would be to promote yourself, to promote a personal brand, to be an expert. In other words, like it's to understand kind of what the landscape is before you step into it, right? Can I continue to build this this trajectory for myself while I'm working in-house? I think that if you are the job interviewer, I think understanding what people's passions are and how they give back to their community through those passions becomes a really interesting conversation, especially if you're trying to build a team of learners and a team of agile-minded individuals, right? Because these are indications of kind of agile thinking, right? Is I'm always going to get better, I'm always going to get smarter, and improve myself as well. So I think it goes either way. I hope I answered your question there. Agustin says, what do people think about this path you have taken? Well, I'll tell you what I know, okay? The only reason I wrote this book is because people kept asking me how I built my business, right? How did I build my business this way? How did I move to Spain, right? How did I build this kind of sustainable business around it? And I've gotten those questions for years now. And I kept saying I would write the book, I would write the book, I would write the book. And then last year I finally got off my butt and started writing the book. And so what I think people appreciate the path. I think some people would like to understand how to do it themselves. And I think that they see it as an opportunity to redefine their career in a way that gives them back control of their career. You know, one of the things that is difficult is, one of the things that is not great about going through that traditional job path, which I did for a decade, right, is every time that there's a reorganization or a shift in the economy or a pandemic, right, you start to panic and you're like, oh crap, I got to get my CV in order. I got to apply for jobs, right? I didn't want to do that anymore. And I think people who do that look and say, wow, that's really interesting. He doesn't have to do that. And so I think people are interested in how this became a reality. And that's why I've been telling this story. That's what I know so far. Melissa says, why HR now? Two reasons. First reason is I don't think HR operates in a very agile fashion. I think I think that in operating in an old school fashion, they are limiting the ability of the organization to move more quickly and react to changing market conditions. So that's one. Also, I think that HR is critical in enabling the agility of the rest of the organization. And I'm not sure they understand exactly how. And so I want to help them understand how to operate their HR practice in a more agile way. And I want to help them understand how they can enable agility throughout the organization. And to me, those are two very big and very important aspects of successfully transforming a company into an agile company or implementing agile inside these companies. So I think without HR, it doesn't work. And I'd like to have more impact. So in my work. So that's why now. Okay, next question. Good, excellent. Raphael says, do you think that all of us could or should follow a similar path to yours? I guess it's very difficult that all people achieve such a feat. Yes, it's very glamorous. Look, I appreciate it and thank you. I think, look, so let me share with you this. As part of the launch of the book, I have been doing a series of interviews called Forever Employable Stories. The first one is on my blog already. The second one is coming up this week. I'm trying to find people outside of tech who have become forever employable. And I've already done 2 of the interviews and I've got 3 more scheduled. If there's one consistent theme around all of these individuals, and they come from the entertainment industry, from the design world, right? From technology, from the military, from the business world. If there's one consistent theme, it's hard work. It's hard work and dedication. And I think that's the differentiation for the people who succeed, right? And I'm not saying that everybody works hard, but listen to these stories. The first one on my blog is with the guitarist from Whitesnake, which was a very, very big deal for me. I've been a Whitesnake fan since I was a teenager, and to talk to the guitarist from Whitesnake on a Skype call was a big moment for me. But that dude is forever employable, and he works hard. He works really hard to get this done. The celebrity photographer whose interview is going up this week, he works hard, very hard, to be as successful as he is. And so I think that people can achieve this, but it's not easy. It's a tremendous amount of work. And you've really got to put in the dedication and the perseverance, because you see the successes, but what you see less of are the failures. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of failures out there. And so I think that it's possible, but it's a ton of work. And if it's important to you, and it was for me, right? And it was for me because of my family, right? I wanted to make sure that I could continue to provide for my family at a consistent level without having to continuously look for jobs that were going to become less and less available, right? And so that's my motivating factor. And I think the bottom line is it's hard work. But read those stories. The first one's on my blog right now at jeffgothelf.com. The second one's coming up this week, and I'll have a couple more in the next couple of weeks. And I think you'll see a theme there. And that's the key, I think, to all of this. All right. Yeah, Raphael, I hear you about the guitar. Go watch that interview. You can see the excitement in my face. And to be clear, he's in New York, and the only time he could do the interview was at 9 o'clock at night in New York. So it was 3 o'clock in the morning here in Spain. I didn't care. I get up at any hour. I'm so happy. All right, let's do one more. Is Forever Employable, the lean startup version, apply to your career? Yes. Short answer is yes. At least how to make it succeed. It's exactly that. You have a set of assumptions about how you're going to be successful. You create hypotheses, and then you experiment, and you collect data, and you build, and you measure, and you learn, and you iterate, and you continue to increase the size of your investment based on that evidence. And if the evidence says that it's not resonating, then we don't continue to invest in that idea or that theme. And that's the key. It's the absolute key here, is to make sure that you only invest in the ideas that resonate. And look, I try this all the time. I throw out thousands of tweets, blog posts that didn't get read, but the things that, look, the third book I wrote, Lean versus Agile versus Design Thinking, is a perfect example of this. I tweeted about it, and the tweet got hundreds of likes and retweets. That's a good signal, right? I then wrote a short blog post on my personal blog, got lots of retweets, lots of traffic. I extended it to about 1,000 words on Medium. It became the best read thing I ever wrote online, right? I said, okay, great. I extended it to 6,000 words and self-published a book, right? That book has sold over 10,000 copies. And that book launched Sense and Respond Press. So it's a perfect example, right, of tiny investment, evidence, slightly bigger investment, evidence, right, and continue to invest and become successful. All right. Last question, because we have 3 minutes left. Melissa's asking all the good questions tonight. Not that the others weren't good. Melissa's got a lot of good questions tonight. That's all I'm saying. I love you all and all the questions. Venga. Okay. Would you say Agile is going to be out of fashion eventually? When? So look, do I think that in 20 years we'll still be sitting here talking about sprints? I don't know, right? I think we'll probably call them something else. Do I think the qualities of agility will ever go out of fashion? I don't think so. I can't see learning going out of fashion. I can't see continuous improvement going out of fashion. I can't see focusing on customers going out of fashion, at least, you know, if you want to be successful. So Scrum, right? Safe, XP, that kind of stuff. Maybe they'll give it new names. There'll be some new flavor of the week. The qualities, I can't imagine the qualities will ever go out of fashion. So, cool. Folks, thank you for that. I want to wrap up on time. Again, if you want the slides, the link is in the chat. It's right there. Just jump there and I'll send you a copy of the slides. Thank you for joining me tonight. There's a lot more folks than I expected. It was great to see you all. The recording, I'll have the recording shortly. I'll send Daniela the link and she can share it with you. So if you want to watch this again or share it, that would be fantastic. I hope you'll buy the book or pre-order it now and buy it when it comes out. And if you have any feedback for me at all on this meetup, the book, or anything else, I'd love to hear from you. I'm super easy to find. As I told you, that's my email address. And I'll see you hopefully in the real world very soon. That's my hope, because I'm sick and tired of being in my house. I'd like to go outside for a little bit. All right. You all have a good evening. Daniela, thanks so much. And muchas gracias y hasta pronto. ¿Vale? Adiós.